This demonstration will review a sample building permit process in Cityworks PLL. We will use public access to create a new permit application, track the permit's progress in PLL, and use Cityworks mobile applications to streamline the building inspection process. We will be completing a process that would normally require weeks or months within a short period of time. So keep in mind that we will be touching on multiple sections of PLL. However, based on roles and responsibilities, typical end users would only normally interact with 1 to 2 pages of the module. I am currently on the Cityworks login page, and I should note that the asset management and permitting modules of Cityworks are both accessed through the same website and login. Therefore, users can be granted permissions to view, create, or complete tasks in both AMS and PLL. This makes it really easy to share information between departments. So I'm going to go ahead and log into Cityworks. And I'm going to sign in as PLL admin. So this is our administrator account, which can be thought of as a super user. So I will have access to more information than the typical end user would. When I first sign in, I'm brought to the Cityworks inbox. The inbox can be thought of as an interactive dashboard displaying real-time information on current activities in Cityworks. I'm currently viewing the Welcome tab, which has been configured to show department notes and announcements, as well as the current weather. The inbox supports HTML widgets, therefore you could also embed features such as live traffic data as well. As you can see, we have a variety of tabs displayed across the top of the inbox. Cityworks administrators can configure tabs that are shared between all users. In addition, each user has the ability to configure their own tabs that display information relevant to their own role and department. Our inbox has a tab configured for severances, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this tab. We can now see current activities from the planning department. So we can quickly see all of our severances, as well as severances by type. So we have our agricultural and residential, and then we can also see them by status. So we have granted and deferred severances down here at the bottom. And I should note directly from the inbox, we can see some basic information about these applications, such as file number, type, subtype, location, and status as well. And if I wanted to view more details about any of these applications, I can click the little hyperlink over here in the corner, and that would open up the full application. I'm just going to scroll back up to the top here. And we also have a bylaw tab configured in our inbox. In this demo site, bylaw and code enforcement are being captured through service requests in AMS. So since AMS and PLL are hosted within the same website, activities from each module can actually be linked together. Service requests are a great tool to handle a wide variety of call types and can be configured with a standard set of questions and answers to help the call taker gather the proper information. I'm going to scroll down and take a look at the pie chart here. So from the pie chart, we can see that we have a number of service requests submitted for building without a permit. If any of these calls resulted in a permit application being submitted to the building department, the permit could then be linked to the service request to track the full activity history. So now that we've reviewed some activities in other departments, I'm going to go and open up our building permits tab. So from this tab, we can see all of our residential permit applications submitted in the last 10 days. Our new online applications, so these are applications that are submitted through the public access portal, as well as any building permit application that is currently in review, as well as those that have been issued. And lastly, we also have a pie chart over here, which is visualizing our public access applications by type. So we can see here that we have a number of application types configured for our public access portal. So next we're going to take a look at how applicants can submit a new application through public access. I am now on our sample public access site, and public access provides municipalities with the ability to share real-time information on permit applications and intake new permits electronically. The Cityworks administrator has full control over what information is available to the public through this portal. I'm going to sign into public access as my contractor account. However, if I did not have an account, there is an option up here to sign up and create a new account. So when a new account is created, the administrator is notified. The administrator can then approve the account and determine which functionalities the user has access to. The public access interface is highly customizable. The first panel that I see when I sign in is the message board. This is a tool that can be configured to provide announcements, such as notice of holiday closures or links to supporting information. So for example, if I open up my message board here, we can see that our site is currently configured with links to information regarding the permit process. The next panel displays my applications. So from this panel, I can view a complete history of my submitted permits. Basic information such as type, permit number, address, status, and date created are available through this panel. The map below shows all of my applications spatially. So since I'm signed in as a contractor, I have a large number of submitted applications or permits. So I can easily use this map to navigate to a current job site and open the application. So it is interactive, so if I come down here, I can zoom in and I can click on one of these briefcases here and I can see some basic application information such as the building permit number and location, and if I were to click this little open button right here, I could open up the full permit details. I'm just going to come back up here to my list of submitted applications. You'll notice there is a drop down here of available actions. So as an end user, I do have the options to check the case status, schedule an inspection, pay fees, or print the permit application form. I'm going to now start the process of submitting a new application. So I'm going to come up here to the top and click this new application option. We have categorized the available permit types to help end users easily find the proper application type. So as you can see here, we've exposed commercial, residential, road occupancy, and severance permits through the public access portal. So multiple departments can expose their applications through the same portal, creating a centralized intake location. Once submitted, the application would then be redirected to the proper department, and the responsible individuals would be notified. The Cityworks administrator can control which permit types are available through public access, so you don't have to expose all of your permit types through this portal. I'm going to open up our residential permits, and I'm going to select our single-family application and begin. First, I'm prompted to define a location for my permit, so I can use our tool over here to type in the address. So I'm going to say it's at 2208 Red Rock Drive. And our organization's address locating service is kicking in and returning a result for me. So alternatively, I could use the map here on the right. It is interactive, so I could pan around and select an address point from the map. However, I'm just going to go with our return suggestion here. And once I select that, our map now centers on that parcel, so we can confirm that yes, this is the address that we want to submit the application for. And I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Next, I'm prompted to provide information for the applicant and an additional contact. So I'm going to go ahead and click this little button here called Use My Info. This button brings in information from my public access profile, so I don't have to submit the application details from scratch each time. So I will move on to our next step. The Details section allows me to provide additional information regarding the application. This section can act as an electronic application form, and the administrator has the ability to control which fields are available in this section and can even make some fields required. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and populate a few sample fields. And I will enter our estimated value of construction. And as you can see here, there is a little help icon. So the administrator can configure a tip for each of these fields. So I'm going to say my estimated value of construction is 300,000. And I will put our total area of construction in square meters. So I will say 400. And if I scroll down further, you can see that we have a few other sections available to us as well. So we have information regarding the application purpose, as well as Tarion. So all this information here that we input on this page can be pulled into our monthly Tarion reports. So I'll just go ahead and check these off, and I can enter a registration number. And I'll come down to the bottom here and click Next. Public access allows users to directly upload supporting documents to their application as well. So administrators can control the types of documents that can be uploaded to the portal. So for example, you can restrict the supported file types to be JPEG or PNG only. So I will go ahead and click the option here to add an attachment. And I'm just going to pick my building plan and a few other here. I'll click next. Next, I can review the fees calculated for my permit. These fees are calculated based on the current fee schedule configured in PLL admin. So PLL does support automatic fee updates based on effective dates. This means that administrators could define rates for, say, the next 3 years with an effective date for the increases on January 1st each year. So any application submitted on January 1st would automatically have that new fee amount for that year. At this stage, our site is configured to allow online payments. Public access can be configured with PayPal or authorized.net. So keep in mind this is an optional configuration. Some organizations may prefer applicants come in and pay for the permit after the building staff have reviewed the application and confirmed the fee amounts. In this situation, the payment options could be hidden from the public access portal. So for now, I'm just going to move forward without paying my fees. So Cityworks has now created the application and I'm brought to an overview page. So we can see that a file number has been assigned and our initial status is set to initial intake. This status will update as the permit progresses through the workflow in PLL. At this point, the permit would show up in our Cityworks inbox under our new online applications. However, there is also the opportunity to configure automatic email notifications. So building department staff could also be informed over email that a new application was submitted through the public access portal. So if I scroll down, I can now see the full details of my permit. Since I submitted the permit, this information is now read-only. The permit details can only be edited by department staff. If I come all the way down here to the bottom, I can see our permit workflow. I can easily track the permit's progress through this portal. Once again, the administrator can determine what information and what workflow tasks are exposed to the public. So I'm going to come back up here to the top. And under Actions, I'm now going to select the option to print my permit application. This will auto-populate an application template with the information I provided at intake. I could then print the form and attach a signed copy through the related document section. This document is based on a Crystal Report template, which can be configured to meet the needs of each individual organization. This functionality can also be repurposed to print any report template, such as a building permit or an application summary report. Next, I'll go back to PLL as our internal staff member. Back in PLL, I will refresh my inbox. And under New Online Applications, I can now see the permit that we created in public access for 2208 Red Rock Drive. So I'll open this up to take a look at the permit in PLL. When I open the permit, we're brought to the Permit Summary tab. The Summary tab provides an overview of all the permit details. So I'm just going to go ahead and collapse all of our panels. Each of these individual panels here are also displayed as tabs across the top of the permit menu. Each permit type can be configured with a different set of tabs, so we can expose or hide tabs based on the required functionality for that specific permit type. So from the menu here, we can see our case type, so we have a single family application. We can see our file number and our initial status over here. These are all being determined by the system based on configuration settings. We also have control over the file number format, so you can set different prefix values, date formats, or counting parameters based on the permit type. So next I'm just going to open up our main panel. The main panel provides users with basic information regarding the permit. Once a location is assigned to the permit, Cityworks is configured to run an intersect and pull information from our GIS. In this case, Cityworks is automatically looking up the zoning and land use information for the location input by our applicant. Next, I will open up our People panel. Notice here that the People panel is populated with our applicant details provided through the public access portal. So this is currently the only person we have associated to the case. If I open up our Address panel here, we can see the address information provided by our applicant. However, the object, asset type, and asset ID are empty. This is because we did not expose our parcel data through public access, so I can now use this information to link the application to an actual parcel. So to do this, I'm going to open up our map. The Cityworks map uses HTML5, which means users can access the map from any device, including phones or tablets. When I open up the map, I'm brought to the full extent of our map service. However, each user can configure their own initial extent. So for example, if a user is assigned to a specific district, or perhaps they're responsible for overseeing activities in a specific lower tier municipality, then their map could automatically open up to zoom in on their work area. So the GIS layers that we are seeing right now are coming directly from my organization's GIS service, and they are dynamic. Therefore, any updates made to the GIS are automatically passed through to Cityworks when the map is refreshed. There are no additional steps that we need to take to sync that data. So right now we can currently see our municipal boundaries, hydrology, and park layers. So if I zoom in a little bit here, additional layers become visible. So Cityworks is respecting the visibility settings configured for the map service. And I'm just going to pan over here a little bit. We can also see some additional icons on the map. These icons are called event layers and represent the location of current activities in Cityworks. So if I click on a note icon here, I can see this represents a current building permit that is under review. So we have our status field right here. And we can see some basic information about this permit directly from this pop-up. If I wanted to view the full permit details, the pop-up title is actually a hyperlink directly to this permit. So if I clicked on this, I would open up the permit summary page and I could go through and review all the details of this permit. So instead, I'm just going to close this pop-up and I'm going to click on our hammer icon. So from here, we can see that this is actually a building permit that has been issued. So event layers are configured in Cityworks and update with real-time activity information. So if the status of a permit changed from in review to issued, then the map icon would automatically update and switch from a note to the hammer. Event layers can be shared between users, or users can also configure event layers based on activities that are relevant to them. So for example, each building inspector could have their own event layer displaying their building inspections for that day. Event layers are also a great way to share information between departments and quickly identify what activities may be occurring near an address of interest. Okay, so I'm just going to close our pop-up and I'm going to zoom in to street level. So we can now see some property details that are now visible. And if I open up my legend, we can see that the map has been configured with layers related to planning and development, such as our addresses and parcels. So the map can be configured based on the needs of each user. So for example, users in Group A could have access to different layers than users in Group B. So this allows the Cityworks map to be efficient for all users, regardless of the role or department. We also have a number of tools available for the map. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our locate tool. I will use this tool to find the address provided by our contractor. And once again, this tool uses my organization's address locating service. The map is now centered on the location of our application, and I can go ahead and select this parcel. The parcel attributes now appear in our result window across the bottom of the screen, and these are coming from our GIS service and are real time. So if we take a look at these attributes, we can see that we actually do have some ownership data coming through. So any ownership or assessment information that is updated in the GIS would automatically be passed through to Cityworks. Another great tool that can be used from the map is called Asset History, and that's this little clock icon right here. So I'm going to open up this tool. From here, I can see a complete history of any other Cityworks activity associated to this parcel. So right now we have a result returned under cases. And so Cityworks PLL calls any activity in PLL a case. So we can see here that we do have a residential severance that was submitted for this particular parcel, and we can see here that the status was registered. So if I wanted to view more information about this application, I could go ahead and use the hyperlinked ID here, and that would open up the full details of this application that was submitted to the planning department. For now, I'm going to return to the map and continue with my building permit. Okay, so my parcel is still selected on the map, so I'm going to return back to my permit and attach it. So I'm going to click this plus icon here for the address. And I will now click this little globe icon to link the permit to the parcel. Once I add my parcel, Cityworks populates the address fields based on the GIS attributes. So this data is being copied from GIS to the permit. So it's just a snapshot of the address at the current time, and it's not a live link back to those attributes. These fields can be configured based on the schema of the available GIS attributes, and any of these fields can be repurposed. So for example, here we could pull unit information in instead of lot, and we could rename the lot field to be unit. Okay, so I'm just going to click Save here to save all of this information to the permit. And as you can see here now, our object, asset type, and asset ID are also populating. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this blank one. Next, I'm going to open up our People tab. We can see here that the People panel is now populated with a property owner in addition to our applicant. If I select the Edit option, we can see additional information for the owner. Cityworks has been configured to look up any property owner information in the GIS attributes and copy this information to the People table. So in this case, we have a single owner listed, but the configuration could be modified to pull in multiple owners as well. And once again, this is only a copy of the current ownership information and can be edited in Cityworks without impacting the GIS. So for example, information could be manually updated if the property was sold since the last GIS update was in place, or if the contact information changes throughout the lifespan of an application. So for example, if a mobile number or an email updates, users can come in here and modify that information, and that won't impact the GIS data at all. For example, information can be manually modified if the property was sold since the last GIS update, or if contact information changes throughout the lifespan of the application. These updates will not impact the parcel data and are only tied to the permit record itself. So there is a little plus icon here at the top of the table. This allows me to add additional people roles to a permit. People roles are used to sort individuals based on their responsibility and can be used to help send notifications. So for example, notifications can be set to always go to the applicant role instead of the property owner or owners. So I can select my little lookup tool here next to role code, and we can see here that we have a number of different people roles configured in the system. I'm just going to cancel this. PLL can also store contact information for common people or contractors to help increase the efficiency of the intake process. So there's another lookup here next to our full name or company name. So I could select an individual from this list, and all of the contact information would pre-populate on the application, so I don't have to enter it manually each time that individual comes in. If any of their information changes, we can update it once in the people table, and then that would apply for any future applications as well. So once again, I'm just going to cancel out of here. And I do want to note the copy from role option here. So if you are adding multiple people roles to an application at once, and say the property owner is the applicant, so you could use this tool to just copy that information over quickly. Now that we have the parcel and our property owner populated, I'm going to go ahead and open up our details panel. This panel provides users with the ability to create custom fields to document information regarding the application or permit. These fields can be used for reporting, such as our monthly stats can report, or to automatically calculate fees based on a value, such as total square feet or square meters. If I scroll down here, we can see that some of these fields have already been populated by the applicant through public access. However, we now have a stats can data group that was not exposed through public access. So I'm going to open this up for editing. And we can select our building code, our type of work, and I will say that we have 1 unit being created. And I will save that. Okay, so now this permit is ready for our monthly Stats Canada report. Before we dive into our workflow, I want to take a look at our fees tab. So similar to the public access portal, we can now see a list of fees that have been set by default for this application type. The end user did not pay these fees through the public access, so we can see here that the amount paid is set for 0 for all fees. When permit types are created in PLL, They're set up with a default set of components, including fees, case data fields, and tasks. This increases the efficiency of the application intake process as you're not starting from scratch each time. The application defaults can always be changed. So for example, right now we have the ability to review all of the fees associated to the permit before they're paid. So we could waive fees, remove fees, or add new fees. So if I select the option here to add a new fee, we will have a new pop-up show up. And I'm presented with a list of all the fees configured in PLL. So once again, as I mentioned earlier, this list could be the full fee schedule, and it can be set to automatically update the fee amounts when new fee schedules come into effect. So I'm just going to close out of here for now. And you'll notice that this fee here has a little link icon next to it. This indicates that this fee is actually tied to a case data field. So I'm just going to open up this fee for editing so we can take a look. So this fee is actually tied to the total square meters entered by the applicant in public access. So under our quantity field here, we can see we have the value of 400. So that was the number that I put in when I was submitting the application through public access portal. The fee is calculating using a base amount of $350 plus $1 per square meter. So that gives us our total of $750. If the value were to be changed in the case data field, the fee automatically would recalculate. And then lastly, under our Related Documents tab, we can see the attachments uploaded by the applicant. Cityworks can handle file types of any kind through Office mode. So we can download any of these attached files to view them, or we can add additional files by browsing or dragging and dropping. So I'm just going to open up our Add Attachment option here, and I'm just going to add another site plan. Cityworks provides users with the ability to store and organize files related to work activities. However, it's not a true document management system, so it doesn't track editing and stuff like that. However, there is potential to integrate Cityworks PLL with systems such as OnBase or SharePoint to edit documents and track versions. So now that we've reviewed all of the case information, we can go ahead and open up our case workflow. Workflows are the core of Cityworks PLL and consist of a series of tasks that occur in a predefined order. So right now, the only task that I'm able to set a result for is our initial intake. I cannot proceed in the workflow until this task is complete. I should note that this workflow was provided to us as a sample from our distributor, so it does represent a general new residential workflow, but keep in mind that Cityworks administrators have full control over the workflow configuration. So this means that each organization can configure PLL workflows based on their unique business processes and tasks. As part of a PLL implementation, we will work with an organization to map out their current business processes, identify opportunities to increase efficiency, and migrate all of this into PLL. So now that I've reviewed our application and performed some QA/QC on the provided documents, I'm going to open up our result options, and I'm going to check this off as done. So this will open up the next task in the workflow, which is our check for completeness. So if I click here, we now have two results. We can set it as complete or incomplete. So this is different from our first task. There's also a little yellow checklist icon here. And checklists are configured to remind users of additional steps that may be required as part of the overall task. So if I go ahead and mark this task as being complete without completing my checklist, I should receive an error. So in this site, this particular task is set up to have the checklist as required. So I actually have to set a response for each of the checklist line items before I can move forward. So I should note too that this feature here is an optional configuration. Checklists can be set to be required or they can set to be optional. So optional checklists really just are meant to provide users with additional information or supporting details on the task. Okay, so I'll go ahead and open up our checklist here. Okay, so we can see here that we have a list of items that are required in order for the application to be marked as complete. And so I'm going to go ahead and mark our floor plan as being included. Our professional design is included. Site plan is included. But let's mark our ventilation summary as missing. And I should note here too that we also have the ability to add a comment regarding any of these items. So I'm just going to go ahead and close this. And we can go ahead and mark our application as incomplete. Okay, so now Cityworks has actually reinserted the check for completeness task. So we cannot proceed with the workflow until we have a successful outcome for this step. We have also configured automatic email notifications to notify the applicant of the incomplete application. So I'm just going to switch over to my Gmail, which is linked into our applicant profile. And I can see here that I have a new message regarding the deficient application. So this email was sent with an attached crystal report. So if I open up this crystal report here, we can see that we're pulling in information from my checklist. So this report includes any item marked as missing. So we can see our ventilation summary here is listed. We've also set up this report to use digital signatures. So there's logic built in to check the user ID of the login who completed the check for completeness task and insert their signature. Once again, Crystal Reports is a really powerful reporting tool that allows organizations to customize their templates. So any of these notifications that we see today could be sent on a standard template or an existing letterhead. So now that the applicant has received this notification, they can go back into the public access portal and upload the missing documents. So I'm just going to switch back over to public access. And under related documents here, I'm just going to go in and add our ventilation. Okay, and if I switch back over to our office mode now and come back over to related documents, I can now see our ventilation system diagram has been uploaded. So now department staff can go ahead and update the second checklist to indicate that this missing item was received, and we can go ahead and mark the application as complete. So I'll say it's now included, and we can mark it as complete. Okay, and I'm just going to refresh our workflow page here so that we can see our new status change. Okay, so over here on the right, we can now see that our status has changed to review. And we now have our zoning review available to us. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark that off as approved. So once I approved that task, we actually had 3 tasks open for us. So this is called a milestone in PLL, and milestones provide flexibility to end users. Tasks in the milestone can be completed in any order, but they must all be completed before we can move forward. So this particular milestone here could include tasks that may be assigned to staff in other departments. In that case, the proper staff member could be notified of the new task in Cityworks. They could then log in to review the application details and document their work. So if I'm completing the building plan review, I can use this little comment icon here to open up our comment window and add a comment regarding my review. So I'll just say review comments go here, and I'll save that. So that comment is timestamped with my user login, as well as the date and time as to when I applied that comment. So I'm just going to close this window here. And now we'll see there's a little star icon on the comment icon. So this flags it for other users so that they know that there is a comment, so they can open it up and review it. Users also have the ability to upload attachments and relate them to specific tasks. For example, I can open up our building plan review and use our attachment tool down here to upload my actual report or my review. And so once I save this, we now have a little attachment icon appearing in the workflow. So once again, users can come in here and immediately they can see that there is an attachment associated to this building plan review task. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mark these as complete. And so as I mentioned, we can complete these in any order. So I'll do the public utility first, then our engineering review, and then we'll come back to our planning review. So I now have the option to issue the permit. So if I go ahead and select issue, we actually get a warning. The warning tells us that all fees must be paid before we can issue this permit. There is additional logic built into this template to prevent the permit from being issued until all fees are processed. This is optional logic. It's not required. So I'm just going to quickly go into my fees tab here to process the payment. Okay, I'm going to select the option here for pay now. The tool here that we're seeing is actually designed to document a payment. It doesn't actually process the payment itself. However, we mentioned earlier that there are options to integrate with PayPal or Authorize.net to accept payments through public access. There's also options to integrate with existing financial systems using the Cityworks API. So I'm just going to go ahead and document my payment for now. So I'll just say it came through as check. And I'll save this. So I'm brought right back to our permit after I processed the payment. There is an option to trigger an automatic receipt, or you can go back and print it at a later date. So for now, I'm just going to return to my workflow. And I can now go ahead and issue the permit. So now that the permit's issued, I'm just going to go back to our summary tab. And from our main panel here, we have the option to print our building permit card. So once again, this building permit was generated using Crystal Reports. So each organization can customize the design of the building permit and decide which fields they want to pull in. There's also options to export this permit to PDF and apply a digital signature in Adobe. You can then save the signed permit to the application as an attachment. So in our demo environment, we've actually configured it so that the applicant receives a notification that the permit has been issued and is ready for pickup in the office. So I'm just going to switch back over to my Gmail account. And we'll turn to my inbox, and we can see here that we have notice of issued permit. So if I open this up here, I can just see some basic information such as the permit number, the permit type, and location. For organizations that are using public access, it is also possible to embed a link into this notification that would bring the user to a digital copy of the permit card through the public access portal. So now that we've issued our permit, the inspections are now available. So inspections can be scheduled upon request through the inspection schedule tool in the office mode. However, public access also provides users with the ability to schedule an inspection through the portal. So I'm going to switch back over to public access now. So I'm just going to come back up to our actions dropdown, and I'm going to select the option here to schedule an inspection. So now I'm presented with a list of inspections that are currently available in the workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and pick our footer inspection. I'm now presented with available time slots. We've set up this particular inspection to use 2-hour time blocks. However, these time blocks could be adjusted to be shorter or longer. And users also have the option of using general time blocks, such as morning or afternoon. The Cityworks administrator can also schedule an organization's holidays into PLL to prevent public access users from requesting inspections when the department is closed. There's also the ability to update PLL with inspector days off. This prevents inspections from being scheduled when inspectors are not available. So I'm going to go ahead and select our Monday morning at 8 a.m. time slot, and I will click schedule. I'm just going to return to Office, and I'm going to refresh our workflow here. We can now see that next to the footer inspection is our little scheduled icon, and if I open this up, we can see that our target start date and target due date have been set for the Monday morning at 8 a.m., and this inspection has also been assigned to JInspector. I'm going to switch over to my iPad now to sign into the native app as JInspector. And I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. So the native app is available on Android or iOS. The great thing about the native app is it allows inspectors to work offline. So for example, inspectors could complete all of their inspection notes while working in a basement without service. The app would store all of their completed work, and then they can sync the updates once they have service again. So the app is just performing a full sync as this is the first time I'm logging in for today. So once I'm signed in, any activity that's been assigned to me will appear on the map. So this includes both AMS activities as well as PLL activities. So on my current map here, the green icons represent PLL inspections. So if I just zoom in here and click on here, Oh, I'm just going to turn off my addresses. There we go. Okay, so I can see here that this represents a framing as well as a plumbing rough inspection. So I could go ahead and open up these inspections directly from the map, or I can go ahead and open up my inbox. So from my inbox here, I can see my footer inspection. So I'll open this up to view the details. The inspection description shows me some basic information, including the permit number. So below that, I can see the address details. And if I click on the address, the location is actually passed from the native app to my Maps application for direction. There we go. So I'm just going to switch back over. And there's also a section on the native app for inspection request details. If the inspection request was being tracked through the office, the call taker could document additional notes for the inspector. So for example, the call taker could add a warning to the inspector that there's a large dog on site. And this information, as well as contact information for the caller, would be presented here. Below that, we can see that we have an option for attachments. So any attachment that was added to the permit in PLL or public access is available to workers in the field. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up our building plan. So in addition to viewing these documents, the native app also has an option to export these documents. So you could export this document to another app for markup. So I could then edit this version directly from the field and reattach it through the native app. So I'm just going to go back here. And you'll notice I also have a little camera icon. So inspectors can take pictures out in the field and attach them directly to their inspection. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to my task here. And to complete the actual inspection, I'm going to open up our checklist. So I'm going to go through and mark everything as passed. However, I'm going to set this last option here to failed. And since I'm using my mobile device with a microphone, I can use the voice to text feature to quickly add a comment about this failed item. Comments go here. So I'm going to return back to the inspection task. And I also have the option to add an overall comment to the inspection. So once again, I can add a comment using the voice to text feature. J inspector on site. And I'll just add that for now. And I'll come back, and now I'm going to pick a result for my inspection. So I'm going to say that my inspection failed. So I will return to my inbox and I'm going to sync my work. Okay, so while this is syncing, I'm just going to switch back over to office mode. And I'm just going to refresh my workflow. And we can now see that the footer inspection is marked as failed. And we can also see that we had a photo that was attached in the field. And if I open this up here, we can see the comment that I added directly from my iPad. Okay, and we'll see down here at the bottom of our milestone, we actually have another footer inspection that has been automatically reinserted for us. And I'm just going to go back to my email. If I come back into my inbox here, we have an email trigger for our building permit inspection results. So our inspection report is actually being captured as a crystal report once again. And this report template has been configured to show all of the results of the checklist line items, as well as comments regarding those items. However, as I mentioned earlier, each municipality has full control over their report templates. And so this template could be adjusted to capture only those items that failed. So I'm just going to switch back over to Office again. And I'm going to reschedule our footer inspection. However, this time, instead of going through the public access portal, I'm going to use a tool built into Office mode for inspection scheduling. So I'm going to click our little clock icon right here. And what this does is opens up our inspection scheduler. So this is actually a calendar view for all of our inspectors. So I'm just going to switch now to J Inspector and turn off PLL admin. Okay, and I'm going to go through to next week. And so we can see J Inspector does have a fairly busy Monday, but we can go ahead and fit in this other footer inspection. Okay. And I will close this tool. And once again on the workflow here, we can see that our footer has now been rescheduled. Instead of completing the reinspection on the native app, I'm going to switch over to Respond on my iPad. So Respond is another mobile option available for field workers and is browser-based. So unlike the native app, Respond does require constant internet connection, but it does offer additional features, including access to the complete permit history. The most recent release of Respond also supports digital signatures. So I'm just going to come down here and switch back over to my iPad. Okay, and I'm just going to switch over to Safari, and I can go ahead and log in as JInspector. So similar to Office, Respond is configured with an inbox. So these tabs are the same tabs that JInspector would see in the Office mode, but the display is much more user-friendly for mobile devices. So icons and buttons in Respond are larger, and the layout is responsive to the screen size. So if I signed in on my phone browser instead of my iPad browser, I would still be able to interact with the buttons and make selections easily. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our Task Manager. So the Task Manager shows me all of the tasks assigned to me within a defined date range. So right now I can see we have our footer inspection. So if I go ahead and open up our details, we actually have an option here for inspection history. From here we can see that original footer inspection that failed, and if I click on our little comment icon here, we can see any of the task comments that were applied to this inspection. And if I open up my corrections, I can view my checklist. So my checklist results from last time are actually being carried over. So this makes it really easy for me to go through and identify which item failed the last time. So now I can go ahead and pass this item. And you'll notice there's a little warning at the bottom saying that the correction updated successfully. So as I mentioned earlier, Respond requires a constant internet connection. So any changes that I make right now are actually being sent back to the office in real time. I don't have to sync my data. And if I come back up here towards the top, under the footer header here, we do have a hyperlink to our actual permit. So I'm just going to select this. And now I can see the full permit details and history. So I have access to information such as our case data groups. I can see any conditions that have been assigned to the permit. If there's any related cases or applications, I can directly link into those. I can see any flags. I can view the overall workflow. And I can also come in and see all of my attachments here. So once again, I could open these up to view them, or I could add a new attachment to the inspection itself or the overall permit. And I also have access to our applicant information. So I can come in here and see all the contact information for our applicant. And lastly, I'm just going to open up the Respond map. So you'll notice that this is the same map we saw in Office mode, but is now being displayed on my iPad. So as I mentioned earlier, the map does use HTML5, so you can interact with it from mobile devices. So even though I'm accessing it from my iPad right now, I can use all the same tools that I could back in the office. Okay, so I'm just going to close out of the map. So to wrap up the demo, I'm going to generate a monthly report. So just back in the office, I'm going to go to our inbox. And we do have a tab here for PLL reports. So any of these reports here can be launched directly from the inbox. So it is a great tool and a great feature to run any reports on the fly, or to run your monthly or annual summary reports. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the Stats Canada report. And I'm going to run this for the month of May. So this report is pulling case data fields for our building permits. Once again, each organization has full control over the design of this report, but we do have the option over here. We can print the report, or I could export it. I can go to PDF or Microsoft Excel if I want to manipulate the data any further. So I'm just going to close out of here, and that wraps up our demo for today.